get some time for people to log on. I know it takes a little bit of time for people to come on. Well, hey everyone, my name is, as you all may know, my name is Trevaughn. I grew up in the ARC. I'm part of the ARC family, and Pastor had invited me tonight to talk about politics and to talk about our current moment, and to also talk about how politics relates to public safety. So there are a lot of things going on right now, as you know, in the world, in the U.S. One right now, that we're in election season, so we're going to vote for our president, but not just our president. We're going to vote for our governors. We're going to vote for senators, people in Congress, local people who are running for like Secretary of State in the state of Missouri, and also people like the county executive in St. Louis County. So a lot of high level people, but all important down the ballot. But also, you all may know that there's a lot of racial unrest right now too happening in the country. Talking about policing, talking about public safety, talking about how to make our communities safe, and how do we reimagine a world where we are completely safe, in a world in which we don't need to rely super fully like on police. How do we reimagine that world, and all how complex that would be? So I'm here to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about myself. As you know, I say again, my name is Trevaughn. For those who are just joining, I'm part of the ARC family, and I'm excited to talk tonight about something that I presented before. So I have a part-time position at this organization called Forward Through Ferguson. For those who are not familiar with Forward Through Ferguson, it is a policy advocacy organization that focuses on racial equity and making our region more equitable and equal for everybody. After Michael Brown was killed, as we all know, 6 years ago, the governor of Missouri had put together a commission. So he put together this group of people of academics, high-level people in business, people in the healthcare field, education, regular community members, to come together and to, one, analyze why there was so much racial unrest in Ferguson, and then what are all of the economic, political, and social actors that drove that unrest, and then two, put together a type of document or some type of communique to advise the government and to advise mayors and politicians and policymakers on what can we do and what can we implement in our region to make it more racially equitable and make it a place where you don't have more Michael Browns, or where you don't have more racial unrest because of not just the Ferguson uprisings weren't just about Michael Brown's death, but it became larger. That was the start of the Black Lives Matter movement. We talked about lack of jobs, unequal education in our schools, as we all are very familiar with, for those who grew up in North City, North County. So after the commission, they met for a year. They came out with this almost 200-page report called the Ferguson Commission Report. And within it, there are 189 calls to action. So 189 different policy level ideas and calls to action, things that we can do in the region that policymakers can implement, that businesses and schools can grab a hold of and implement in their systems. And if all of these 189 calls to action were implemented, then that will make St. Louis more racially equitable. That's the idea, at least. But a lot of reports are put out every year in response to things like Michael Brown's death. So they really wanted to sustain the work. So Forward Through Ferguson, a nonprofit organization, was birthed out of that. So Forward Through Ferguson's mission is to hold the region accountable to implement and those calls to action. And it's been in existence since a year after Michael Brown's death, so about 7 years. And I am a policy advocacy fellow part-time with them. And it's really great. I specifically work on police reform within their Justice for All section. So I guess to back up a little bit, the three main tenets is Justice for All. So talking about policing, public safety, municipal court reform. So for those of you who got, warrants, or those, you have a lot of tickets because you keep getting pulled over, talking about that reform. Youth at the center. So talking about education and programs for youth, or how we make our youth thrive. And then opportunity to thrive. So talking about economic development, talk about jobs and providing more, job growth and economic opportunity for all residents across the region. So those are three areas. I work in the Justice for All area. So I'll talk about policing, public safety, And right now, we're really focusing on how do we keep our institutions accountable, specifically like police unions, and trying to target the police union contract on. And I'll talk more about what that is as I go along. So before I share my screen and show you what I'm going to present tonight, and just an overview of what I'm going to show you, voting is very important. So if you haven't voted early, find out if you still can. I'm not sure if you still can in the state of Missouri, but if you can vote, please do. If you know people who say they're not going to vote, go off on them, tell them how important it is to vote right now, especially, we have Trump is in office. We have a lot of people who are not Trump down the ballot who needs to go as well. So not only pay attention to just the federal level politics, but also pay attention if you can to, what's happening in the state of Missouri. We're about to elect our new governor. Nicole Galloway is the Democratic runner, or the Democrat who's running against Mike Parson, the Republican. So we want to vote her in there because Mike Parson does a lot of harm. And I'm not recording, but I don't care. But Mike Parson does a lot of harm in Missouri as a governor. So it's important to pay attention, state level and also city level. I'm not sure where everyone lives, but I live in the city of St. Louis, so I pay attention to local St. Louis politics. If you live in a county, it's important to pay attention to local St. Louis County politics. And you don't really have to know all the, minute details about what's happening in politics in your region. But there are a lot of podcasts. If you all have any podcast suggestions, just hit me up. 15 minutes a day, you can listen to a podcast to talk about briefly what's going on in St. Louis County and St. Louis City every day. And every day, 15 times 7, I don't know the math, but that's a certain amount of hours as you listen to about politics in St. Louis, and you'll be an educated citizen, which I believe everybody should be. So I'm going to talk about, I guess I'm going to frame this as kind of a case study when we talk about electing people to, like, electing our mayors, electing our state legislatures, people who are in the state, just like how the federal government has a Congress and the Senate. Missouri has a Congress and a Senate, and we have people who represent us in Jefferson, which is our capital, talking about how when we elect those, how much influence do they have over the issues that we see. So tonight I'm going to be talking specifically about policing and public safety, because I think a lot of times, especially now, there's a lot of outrage on, why can't we keep police accountable? Why do police keep killing us? Why are there so much outrage, and why aren't things changing? Which I think is a very important conversation. However, we have to be strategic. We have to stop and realize, okay, what we're doing and what we've done so far has not worked. I am a proponent of protesting and demonstrating, but at the same time, which areas in government should we target, and who should we be talking to change these things? And that has a lot to do with how we vote. That has a lot to do with how we keep accountable our politicians who have influence over the policing system. So I'm going to share my screen. And when I show you this graph, don't get scared. It is complicated, but don't run away. So I'm going to share my screen. So I want to present tonight 2 maps. One focusing on St. Louis County, one focusing on St. Louis City. And then I'm going to show you a few budget graphs in the middle. So this map so recently, 4th of Ferguson, I had a chance to help organize a teaching series. I'm pretty sure some of you have saw me on Facebook, talking with different people. We had a panel as well. And if you wonder what that was, it was a teaching series to educate the community on what I'm educating you all tonight, how elected officials and unelected officials affect policing. So when we talk about policing, I want to zoom in here. What we see on TV is this: officers interact with civilians. We see this all the time. This is what we focus on. An officer killed a civilian. Officer. There's a lot of police brutality. Officer put over somebody who was very rude. This is what we see. What we don't know often is that before this happens, all of this is behind it. All of this happens behind that. There is so much underneath police's, it's important to focus on that. It's important to focus on police officers' individual behavior. And we talk about, but I think it's important not to kind of fall into bad apples arguments, thinking that, all police, not all police are good. I'm a firm believer that there are some really decent, great police officers. There's police officers amongst our ARC family who are great. But I think it's important to understand that, These issues are systemic, and these issues are not about individuals. They're about a system that allows for officers to interact with civilians in a particular way, i.e., police officers are able to kill civilians at their discretion, and sometimes, you can argue that it's justified. Somebody's shooting up a school, then yes, we want that person to get shot. But, if somebody's getting pulled over just, for having marijuana, holding marijuana in their car, should they get shot for that? I don't think so. So I want to talk about just, I'm not going to go over this like super in depth because it is very complicated. And I'm going to give the Arc Safety Office this information. So if you want more information, I'm going to show you how you can access this map and look at it yourself if you want to dive deep into it. So if you see over here, the purpose of this map is to provide an overall mapping of the governmental and political bodies that have formal power over policing in St. Louis County and the formal levels of power that they control. So a fact that people don't know, well, actually, you probably do know this, that St. Louis City and St. Louis County are not connected. St. Louis City is a county within itself. So they have a whole different governmental system. St. Louis County has its own governmental system. St. Charles County has its own governmental system. Within St. Louis County, there are 88 municipalities. So some of you may live in Delwood, some of you may live in Ferguson, some of you may live in Riverview, wherever you live. Those are all different cities with their own mayors and their own political systems. It gets complicated because this means that there are about over 60 plus different police departments in St. Louis County. 60 police departments, St. Louis County, St. Louis City. That is a lot of police departments. And this map talks about just the county level. So it talks about St. Louis County Police. So it doesn't get into like, Ferguson Police or the North County Co-op or like Jennings Police or like Wellston Police. It just talks about, St. Louis County Police. So I won't put that caveat out there. Just to know that this system is complicated, and it's important for us to be aware of how the system is complicated when we talk about how can we make things better. We say make things better, but what does that mean? What do we know about our system that we can actually make better? So I guess I can dive right into this map, and please stay with me. When I was first exploring this, the policy advocacy fellow before me did the basic foundation of this map. When I first saw it, I was like, whoa, this is a lot of information. But as I studied it further, it became really illuminated to me and got me excited just to learn more about how our system is set up and how important our vote is as well, because we elect all these actors. And okay, I'm getting to it. I'm kind of just rambling right now. But so as you can see, this legend, it talks about that these green boxes are the people that we elect to our government. So you have the Missouri legislature. As I said, we have a Congress and we have a Senate. I believe that I'm not sure if some people are up for re-election, but that might be the case. But you'll see it on your ballot. And the governor is up for re-election right now. So Governor Mike Parsons is facing off against Nicole Galloway, who's a Democrat. Mike Parsons is a Republican. You have your, county council. So each North County, the whole of St. Louis County has, I think, 6 or 7, I should know this, I believe 7, I want to say 7, county councilors. And so pretty sure most of you are underneath. And if you live in St. Charles County, then I don't know how that system is set up. But for those who live in St. Louis County, and I'll get to St. Louis City after this map, but for those who live in St. Louis County, your county councilwoman is most likely Rita Hurt Days. So she's the county councilwoman for District 1 that covers most of North County, St. Louis. And then if she is not your counselor, then probably somebody else is your county counselor. If you want more information, then contact me. I can look it up for you. And also the county executive. So just how St. Louis City has a mayor, the county has a mayor type person called the county executive. His name is Sam Page. And his seat is actually up for election right now, re-election too. But because, St. Louis is so democratic, he essentially won the election because most people vote Democrat in St. Louis County. So I kind of want to dive into this. So starting from the bottom, us civilians, we are the foundation of all of this. We are the foundation of, how we vote. We have the first decision on how these things are formulated. So we elect, as I just said, directly the Missouri legislature, the governor, we elect the county council, and we also elect Sam Page. The Missouri legislature and governor creates and they modify state statutes, so laws. These state statutes make up and constrain, along with the Missouri State Constitution. Missouri has a constitution just like the United States has a constitution, makes up the county charter. So the county charter is the county's constitution. So just like the United States has a constitution, Missouri has a constitution, St. Louis County has a constitution and the county charter, and also St. Louis City has its own constitution in the form of the city charter. So this is the legal framework for how we conduct ourselves. So when we talk about, okay, how do we change laws? How do we change things? A lot of that happens at the state level, but as we'll go into, a lot of that happens at the local level as well. So I'm going to focus on just like the elected actors and how they have influence. And if you want more information, I'll give you the information so you can look at this yourself. So the county executive, he is the mayor, of the county. He has a lot of power in how policing is done and how public safety is done in the county. So if you follow these arrows, it kind of tells you his power. So the county executive, what should I start with? Okay, let's talk about laws. So you probably hear a lot of conversation right now in the mainstream media about defunding the police, which can be a scary thing that people hear, like defunding the police, like people don't want police anymore. Like, what is that about? The county executive has a lot of influence over how much police get in St. Louis. So you look at the county budget, county executive Sam Page recommends how much money goes to each department within the county. And then the county council modifies and approves that budget. So it's kind of this circle of he recommends it, they modify, approve it. He may recommend something else, modify, approve it, and they come up with a final county budget. Since we're focusing specifically on public safety, it's important to know that the public safety department gets around $230.2 million a year to run. Now, that may not sound like, I'm pretty sure you don't have a point of reference, but I do want to pull up these budget graphs, not to get too confusing, but St. Louis City, St. Louis County. So this is important. So when we talk about policing, talk about public safety, St. Louis County, every budget in St. Louis County, St. Louis City is split up into a general fund. So like general revenue that we get from like taxes and things. And then the total budget, which is like, money that they get elsewhere. So within the general fund, within St. Louis County, the police department itself gets $144.7 million. Other public safety that's not police, so like fire departments and like jails, get $85.5 million compared to $5.2 million for health and well-being. So this brings us to another point. When we talk about violence, when we talk about public safety, when we talk about how do we want safe, communities, I think it's very kind of a low-hanging fruit and kind of easier to say, okay, we need more police to make our community safe. But if you look at budgets, and I'm going to go down here. Actually, they do give more money under the total budget to health and well-being. But when we talk about you're going to see in the city that is even worse. If we don't give as much money to health and well-being to our communities as we do to public safety, people are not going to have, enough healthcare. People are not going to have enough jobs. We don't give a lot of money to things like economic development or workforce development as compared to police. So, if people have jobs, people are less violent. If people have more economic opportunity, if people, don't have to travel 40 minutes to work every day and they don't have a car, they don't have to resort to certain types of violence. So violence decreases if you don't need as much as police. So kind of just rethinking, okay, how do we combat the root causes of our issues? And then you look at the total budget. So combined, I forgot what the number is. I believe it's $232.2 million. So between public safety and police departments, they get about $230 million compared to $122 million, for health and well-being. And then I didn't go into detail about everything else. But this, everything else that the government needs to run. But the person that you elect has control over that. So when people are running for office, it's important to listen to what they're saying and their opinions on things, because if we want, more money for our health system, we want money for workforce development, we want more money for education. And education is complicated because we actually get education funds from the state, but that's not important for this discussion. If you want more money for all these different things that you think would lead to a safer society, then listen to what the person who's running is saying. If they're not promising anything around public safety, around education, around health and well-being, then you just probably think twice about voting for them. because they have a lot of control over how that's run. Same with the county council. So if you live in the first district, like most of us probably do, most of us who live in San Luis County do, since we all mostly live in North County. And also for those for West County, people who are living in other parts of the county, I don't know, leave you out. You all have your own county councilors as well. They modify and approve the county budget. So if you're trying to vote for somebody who wants to keep accountable the county executive, it's important to pay attention to that as well. Also moving on to the county council who we elect. They create and modify public safety ordinances, which, public safety ordinances are just laws that the public safety department, which is this beast right here, that we get into very briefly, that they abide by. So as you can see, where do I go from here? Okay, so I'm gonna focus on the Board of Police Commissioners. So the Board of Police Commissioners, so St. Louis County Police Department, we're just talking about St. Louis County Police Department. They are governed by a Board of Police Commissioners. So it's a group of community members, people who live in St. Louis County, who are high level, public figures who determine how the police department is run. So the chief of police has to answer to the Board of Police Commissioners, which, is in and of itself a good accountability measure that, you have the community running your police department, but also we have to rethink, okay, who is serving on that board? Are these just like regular community members, or are these community members with a lot of money, a lot of power, a lot of connections, which I believe is the case. But the county executive appoints the people to the Board of Police Commissioners. So if you look at, when you think about who to vote for in county executive, the county executive appoints those people to the Board of Police Commissioners. And if, when we talk about, okay, we want more different, say if you are privy to the Board of Police Commissioners, you want more like regular people on that board, it kind of starts with your vote. It kind of starts with, who you vote for. And, again, listen to what they're saying, listen to what they're proposing, listen to the type of person they are and what they want to see changed. Because if you have a county executive who's just appointing powerful people, powerful, well-connected, wealthy people to the Board of Police Commissioners, then it's kind of hard to, keep the police or the public safety department accountable. So that's just like a case study of, okay, does my vote matter? And then what does my vote mean? It means a lot because, who you vote for holds a lot of power, makes a lot of decisions that we are not always aware of. And that, again, eventually leads to how officers interact with civilians up here. So I did want to briefly touch on this point right here. So the people in the blue are unelected actors. So there are people who are not elected. And this is a point that I really want to push people to think about, our police union contracts. So when we talk about, so take the Breonna Taylor case right now, or even George Floyd. There's a huge movement right now to ban chokeholds. There's a huge movement right now to keep police officers accountable. A lot of the reason why we could not keep the murderers of Breonna Taylor accountable is because of what existed in the Louisville police union contract. Within their contract, it states that they can't be held legally liable for certain types of crime. And then when you have that written in a police union contract, within a legal document that the government has to abide by legally, you can't, as much as we want to, we can't legally prosecute them. We can't legally hold them accountable. So right now, a lot of organizations are doing, and For the Ferguson is as well, doing a lot of work on how do we, analyze police union contracts? How do we suggest to them to have more public input over that process? Because every 3 years, and right now, and I really want to, get this information out to everybody right now, St. Louis County, St. Louis Police, or St. Louis City are going through their union contract processes right now to form new union contracts, which, within them will inevitably have protections for police to not keep them accountable. So I just want to harp on that for a little minute. In that SLCPA, so the St. Louis County Police Association, negotiates, and I don't have this arrow, I need to add this arrow here, but they negotiate with the county executive. So it's back to who you voted for. They negotiate with the county executive and other people within the government on what is within the union contract. If you have a county executive that is not aware of these things, or is just not talking about these things, then they probably won't be aware that there's a lot within union contracts that are protecting police and kind of subverting public input on how we want our own police to behave because we are paying them with our taxes. So that's just like my little mini soapbox on that. So again, I'm not going to go on to a lot of this because it can get real jargony and get really esoteric or really big and kind of a mess. But just in general, so this is the St. Louis County Police Department. 30 seconds. The Board of Police Commissioners, they are the governing body of the police department. The Chief of Police and the Deputy Chief of Police answer to the Board of Police Commissioners. They are constrained by the official police policies and manuals that the officers and lieutenant sergeants and captains all within the police department have to follow. And of course, I want to include that there are verbal and unofficial orders that aren't within the official policies that officers go by. So all this is just saying that your elected actors have a lot of influence over police. And it's also important to understand that civilians can file complaints, against, police misconduct by going to the post or police officer standards and training or the Bureau of Professional Standards. And then if you all can't find the information, then if you go on this map, which I'll give you the information for, you can click on these things and you have a link. So if you say, I want to file a complaint with police officer, go to this map, figure out how you can do that, click on this, and then click that link, and it'll take you to that reporting tool. So that's St. Louis County. And then I also want to show you St. Louis City is very similar. Very, 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 very similar. So this is basically the same map, but just St. Louis City. St. Louis City is a little different because it has more elected actors that influence police. So just like going to it, just the same as the St. Louis County, the Missouri legislature, and governor. And I'm not sure who your representative is as far as the Senate and Congress. That's be your homework to look up. Okay, who represents me? Okay, that's a good idea. That's your homework. I'll reset that at the end. Who is your person who represents you in Jefferson City? Because if you know that, then you can know more about just politics in general. Same thing. This is the legal foundation of the city. They have a city charter, which is served with the Constitution for St. Louis City. St. Louis City has more people who are elected that have more influence over police and public safety. And the city is actually a little more complicated. It has a lot of more barriers for people to know what's going on. So again, civilians we serve, we are the base power. We have power. We have our voting power. This guy who I got a chance to know before he passed away recently, he always said, your seat ain't safe. Your seat not safe. We have the power to elect you. We have the power to take you out of office if we don't like what you're doing. But often, we don't know what's going on. So we just keep re-electing the same people who are not doing their job correctly. So civilians, they hire the mayor, they elect the mayor. They elect the comptroller. The comptroller is like the person who's over money and budgets in the city. And we also elect the Board of Aldermen president, who is Louis Reed. Comptroller Darlene Green, and the mayor is Lida Cruzen. When we talk about city budgets, they all are, and then when you look at this map, you can just literally follow the arrows and see, how they influence things. The mayor, the comptroller, and the Board of Aldermen president make up this board called the Board of Estimate and Apportionment. Sounds complicated, but it's basically just the budget board. So they determine how much they want the city budget to be that year. And again, they determine how much money public safety and policing get. I'm going to show you which is even worse in the county, the budget for St. Louis City. So this is the general fund budget. So police departments get $167.3 million. Other public safety, again, like the fire safety and jails get $121.1 million. And together, police department, that's 32% of the general fund budget. 32% goes to police, 23% goes to other public safety. 0.3% goes to human services. Health and hospitals get 0% of those funds, literally 0%. So again, what are we invested in? What are we serious about? How are we being serious about actually ending violence in our communities by giving people access just to be healthy and access to jobs and economic opportunity? And then within a total budget, they give a little bit more to health and human services, but again, it's only 2.6% versus 14 plus 7. What's that? I don't even get my math wrong. 31% compared to about 5% with health and human services and health and hospitals. And so people that you elect decide these things. You have the Board of Aldermen. St. Louis City, I believe, has 28 aldermen. So if you live in a certain ward, you have an alderman to yourself that represents you within the county, within the city government. They have different committees. So the Board of Aldermen has different subcommittees They have a public safety committee that is supposed to keep the public safety system accountable, supposed to. So, but that does exist. You can, on YouTube, you can go into the committee meetings just to see what they're talking about. But oftentimes, these are made public, and this is not information that we have. So, and again, I'm not going to go into all these very, very super minute details. Oh, but I did want to talk about police union contracts again. So just like how the St. Louis County has a police union, St. Louis City has a police union that negotiates their contract, and then negotiated with the mayor, the person you elect, and the director of personnel. And I don't know how the director of personnel, I don't know if he's appointed or if he's hired. I'm not sure that process is. But again, if you look at the mayor that is aware of how police union contracts can subvert or can stop, us keeping accountable when, police misconduct does happen, then you won't, you don't get that. You can't legally keep police accountable. People, we harp on that, the system is rigged. The system is working how it's supposed to work legally within this legal framework. If we target those legal frameworks when they negotiate these contracts, then we can see some change in our city, in our region. This is the Department of Public Safety. This is an important point. The mayor directly hires or fires. And again, you see, she can't fire without reasonable cause, but she hires the director of public safety, who is currently Jimmy Edwards. The director of public safety, again, who was hired by the person that you elected, hires the chief of police, who is currently John Hayden. And those two are essentially in charge of, the director of public safety is in charge of all public safety. The chief of police is in charge of the police department. And then we talk about, we focus on this interaction right here. When all of this is happening, they're getting orders from the chief of police, they're getting an order from the director of public safety. The mayor has their own agenda of who they want to see there. So, and again, you can file complaints with police officers too. You want to go on this website, you click on this and it'll take you there. But yeah, that's just what I wanted to show you. And I did want to harp on, again, if you don't have a plan to vote, please vote. Also, a lot of these positions are not up for re-election right now, coming up November 3rd, but they will be eventually. Like in the city, the mayor, Latimer has a race coming up, I believe in March or April. So if you live in the city, please be aware that that's going to happen, and that most likely Louis is going to run. I don't know if you all are familiar with Tishara Jones, who is the current. I'm sorry, I'm blanking out right now. Tishara Jones, she's going to run again. I'm sorry, I can't think of her position, but she has a lot of influence over public safety in the city. And the Board of Aldermen, that's going to come up as well. Same in the St. Louis County. So the county executive is up for re-election right now. The county councilors, I'm not sure who's up for re-election right now. I know that Rochelle Walton Gray, if you live in District 2, I believe it is, you all already voted for who you wanted to replace her, and you all need to vote again. But again, we live in a Democrat-run region mostly. So essentially, that election is kind of already over. And so, yeah, but I did also want to take questions from you all. So, if there's things like ruminating in your head, I do have my phone right here, YouTube pulled up. And if you have any questions and you're watching on YouTube, we want to switch to YouTube in the comment feature, you can do that. And I can see, I'm sorry, my phone's acting up. I see we already got some comments. No questions though. So if you have any questions that you want to ask me, feel free to ask those right now. That's kind of really what I want to show you. I would say, really, really encourage you to go to Forward Through Ferguson's. And if I'm looking down, I'm looking at YouTube to see any questions. But I encourage you to go to Forward Through Ferguson's Facebook page. For all of my educators out there, if you're a teacher or within the education field, they just released a report called Still Separate, Still Unequal, and it analyzes how our taxing, and again, this is information that we need to know, how our taxes and how our taxing structure is within St. Louis City and County, and how that is very inequitable. And like how, you have schools in Clayton, you have schools in Maplewood, in West County, South County, that have so much more funding than our schools like Riverview, than like Jennings, than Ferguson Florissant School District. And we wonder, okay, why does our schools failing It's because of larger structural issues that we aren't always aware of. And that, a lot of, there's, if you notice in North County, there's not that much commercial properties. Like we don't have, I mean, we have some stores, but not like, if you want to go shopping, where do you go? You go to Galleria, you go to West County Mall, you go out there, you shop. That money, the taxes that you pay on those items don't go to your schools. It goes to the schools in Maplewood. And we don't have those type of commercial properties in North County. We don't go shopping in North County. We go out. So we talk about just like education and talk about how that's funded. How can we regionally pool all of our taxes together and then equitably distribute them across the region, as opposed to, if we just don't live in West County, or we don't live, out there in the wealthy neighborhoods, we don't have access to those things because, and it's not our fault, it's not our fault that there's not a, North County Mall, but it's important for us to understand those things. Again, if you have any questions that you want to ask, I'm in the chat right now. Again, Forward Through Ferguson. So Forward Through Ferguson, look them up on Facebook if you want more information there. There are a lot of events that they have, a lot of very educational tools that they use. And also, I did want to share with you this website. So I'm going to send this, I'm going to post this on my page, and I'm also going to send this to Diane Gaines in the Arkansas Safety Office, who, if you have any questions, please call the office and they can get you in contact with me. Or if you have me on Facebook, just DM me. Hopefully I check my messenger. I don't check it often. Or just comment under my post that I made today about me teaching tonight, and I definitely will see that. So this webpage just talks about the Power Behind the Badge series that we had, talking about how policing and power, understanding policing and power, and how politics influence that. And then within this, you'll see all of our Justice for All community education tools that I've kind of gone over. So I showed you the budget statistics of both the city and county. There's a police incidents timeline that I made that kind of tracks all of the police incidents within St. Louis. That if a certain policy was implemented, like a ban on chokeholds, or I don't think that's in there, but kind of like that. If this was implemented, then this particular incident probably would not have happened. And then these are the power decision and process maps that I presented to you tonight. There was another map that I didn't present, so if you're interested in that, look at that. It really goes into specifically in the city of St. Louis how the Board of Aldermen specifically influence public safety. I don't want to go into that because it's very, very, very detailed. And then also the map that I have right now. So I don't see any questions that you all have. That's all I have for tonight. I think that I thank Pastor for letting me get the opportunity to share with you all. Again, if you have any questions about what I've shared, if you have any questions about elections, how to vote, I think I have homework to assign. I think your homework could be, if you haven't voted, vote. And then if you don't know your Senate and Congress, Missouri Senate and Missouri Congress representatives, I want you to look them up and see who they are and see what they're about and see if they actually represent you the way that you want to be represented. So yeah, that's all that I have. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I think I'm good to go. So thank you all for your time. Let me